And call the meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 22 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates. Today we'll be hearing from representatives of Canada Post. We'll also discuss committee business during the last 30 minutes of the meeting. Today's meeting is taking place in the hybrid format pursuant to House Order of November 25, 2021. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. Regarding the speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do our best that we can maintain a consolidated order of speaking of all members, whether participating virtually or in person. I would like to take this opportunity to remind all participants to this meeting that screenshots or taking photos of your screen is not permitted. Given the ongoing pandemic situation and in light of the recommendations from public health authorities, as well as the directive of the Board of Internal Economy on October 19, 2021, to remain healthy and safe, the following is recommended for all those attending the meeting in person. Anyone with symptoms should participate by Zoom and not attend the meeting in person. Everyone must maintain 2-meter physical distancing, whether seated or standing. Everyone must wear a non-medical mask when circulating in the room. It is recommended in the strongest possible terms that members wear their masks at all times, including when seated. Non-medical masks, which provide better clarity over cloth masks, are available in the room. Everyone present must maintain proper hygiene by using the hand sanitizer at the room entrance. Committee rooms are cleaned before and after each meeting. To maintain this, everyone is encouraged to clean surfaces such as the desk, their chair, or their microphone with the provided disinfectant wipes when vacating or taking a seat. As the chair, I will be enforcing these measures for the duration of the meeting, and I thank members in advance for their cooperation. With that, I would like to welcome our witnesses here today, and I appreciate you bearing with us as we had to deal with the votes. But at this point, you have 7 minutes to make some opening statements. Sorry, you're on mute.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the chair and to committee members for inviting us to join you today to talk about Canada Post finances. I know that my colleagues Manon Fortin and Serge Pitre appeared before the committee in February this year to answer many of your questions about service. My name is Rindala El Haj, and I am the General Manager, Financial Controller at Canada Post. I am joined by my colleague Nathalie Séguin, General Manager, Finance Business Partner. Together, we hope to answer your questions regarding Canada Post finances and the important investments our company is making. Together, we hope. First, I would like to share some important contacts that will be helpful for our discussion today. À Poste Canada, nous comprenons
Our company understands the important role we play in the lives of Canadians. Over our long history, we have constantly evolved to meet the changing needs of Canadians and businesses. We proudly serve all corners of the country, the urban centers, the rural towns, remote communities, and the far north. We are the only delivery organization with a network and the commitment to serve all Canadians. We have a retail network of nearly 6,000 post offices and an incredible team of more than 68,000 employees who are dedicated to serving the communities they live and work in. But to truly serve all Canadians, we know that the Postal Service must also respond to the changes in society and reflect the country we serve. This requires us stretching beyond our traditional role and viewing our responsibility to the country through a wider lens. Canada Post built an ambitious transformation plan in 2021. It strategically positions us for the future by putting the needs of Canadians first. This new plan has one purpose: a stronger Canada delivered. Our new plan is designed to respond to the fundamental changes that we've seen across the country over the last 2 years.
More online than ever before. It went from a necessity during lockdown to a lifestyle game changer. So the needs of Canadians are quickly changing, and businesses are working hard to adjust to this new reality. We're responding to this urgent need by boosting our capacity, improving service, and much more. Our plan means we'll play a meaningful role in their lives for years to come. At the same time, we're committed to showing leadership on key issues, helping make Canada greener, stronger, and more inclusive. Above all, we're investing in our employees. Canadians see them as an essential part of their communities. They do an incredible job, and we are focused on their safety and other needs. Our transformation plan demonstrates leadership that Canadians expect, and it includes important investments that our country needs. Some of these critical investments are reflected in our 2021 financial results, which I will now discuss. En 2021, le secteur
In 2021, the Canada Post segment recorded a loss before tax of $490 million, as higher costs partially offset revenue growth across all lines of business. The loss for 2021 was an improvement from a loss before tax of $779 million in 2020. It's important to note that year-over-year comparisons for our 2021 results are affected by COVID-19, which had different impacts on the lines of business in the previous year. In 2021, revenue for the Canada Post segment increased by $407 million, or 6.3% compared to 2020. Our cost of operations increased by $127 million, or 2% in 2021 compared to the previous year. Cost increases were largely driven by higher labor costs and an increase in non-labor collection, processing, and delivery costs. We also invested in operational capacity to support the growth in online shopping and modernize our retail network of post offices.
Results for each of our line of businesses. In 2021, parcels revenue increased by $238 million, or 7.4%, while volumes fell by 28 million pieces, or 7%, compared to the prior period when volumes surged. The reopening of stores for in-person shopping also had an impact on domestic parcels volumes in the second half of 2021. Transaction mail revenue grew by $10 million, or 0.8%, as volume fell by 62 million pieces, or 2%, compared to the previous year. The 2021 revenue growth was atypical, partly due to the mailings for the federal election and census. Overall, transaction mail continues to erode as consumers and mailers migrate to digital alternatives. Due to COVID-19, Canada Post maintained regulated stamp prices at 2020 levels through 2021. Direct marketing partially recovered in 2021, following significant declines in our personalized mail and neighborhood mail services in the prior year, when customers had postponed or canceled marketing campaigns due to COVID-19. In 2021, direct marketing revenue grew by $113 million, or 14.4%, while volumes increased by 595 million pieces, or 18.4%, compared to the previous year. While some retailers experienced global supply chain issues in the second half of 2021, personalized mail and neighborhood mail revenue and volumes began to recover in 2021 with the gradual return to in-person shopping. Canada Post has a long-standing mandate to maintain financial self-sustainability while serving all Canadians. We believe our new transformation plan will help build Canada Post for the future and put us on a path to financial self-sustainability. The needs of Canadians have changed dramatically during the pandemic. Online sales in Canada nearly doubled in the last 2 years. Canadians expect more, and businesses of all sizes need us to be there for them. Nous réagissons en investissant.
We are responding by investing to expand capacity, improve service, and innovate our operations. Our plan will see us increase parcel capacity by more than 50% over the next 7 years to manage the forecasted growth in online shopping beyond 2030. Our immediate focus must continue to be on the investment and improvement needed to meet the changing needs of Canadians and support businesses of all sizes. Financial self-sustainability remains our goal, and we believe that our transformation plan, along with our amazing people, will help us get there. To conclude, I want to say how proud Canada Post is to serve the people, businesses, and communities that make this country strong. Their needs are at the heart of everything we do. We are the only organization serving all 17 million residential and business addresses across Canada.
And one we have never felt more than in the past 2 years. Canadians from coast to coast to coast have changed, and we are changing with them. As Canada continues to evolve, so will Canada Post. Thank you, and we look forward to our discussion.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll now go into some questions, and we'll start with Mr. McCauley for 6 minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks for that. Welcome, witnesses. Your first quarter for Canada Post loss was $100 million compared to $19 million last year. Now, what's happening to make the results worse from last year, considering we are the country's coming out of the pandemic and switching back to a more open, corporate environment?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. McCauley, for that question. So we recently released our quarter results for Q1 of 2022, and you are right, the Canada Post segment did report a loss before tax of $129 million, and that loss deepened compared to by $52 million compared to 2021. Really, the main difference is we saw revenue falling by about $125 million versus the first quarter of 2021. The larger component is parcel revenue. And to better appreciate that, we know that in the first quarter of 2021, we still had exceptionally high levels of volumes in our parcel line of business due to post-holiday online shopping and returns because stores were still closed due to the pandemic. So the volumes were a lot higher in the first quarter of 2021 compared to this year. And we also are facing limited inbound air transportation capacity and global supply chain issues that also negatively impacted our parcel volumes and revenue.
Most of the loss was from a drop in addressed mail, was it not?
The losses, most of the revenue difference between year over year is really in the parcels line of business, and we did see a decrease in our inbound parcel revenue as well.
Thanks.
And when we look at our
sorry, I'm going to interrupt and just move on because I got a bunch of questions.
Sure.
Your executive summary states Canada Post's long-term financial sustainability is at risk. Can you expand on that a bit more?
I think our mandate is always focused on financial sustainability, but we are very well aware that we need to invest and make significant investments to create capacity, modernize our operation, to enhance our cost competitiveness, and we need to increase our service to Canadians in order to remain a competitive player in a very fierce market. So we definitely do need to focus, and our focus is more than ever on our transformation plan that we launched in 2021 to get us to a path of financial self-sustainability.
Right, and I appreciate that, but I don't think I've seen it before in the executive summary where you've been so blunt that the sustainability is at risk. Is there a reason why it's put in this executive summary?
I think it is because we launched our transformation plan in 2021. So this is the first time that we are committed, and we are very well aware that without this transformation plan that is really geared around our service and capacity, around being environmental and social leadership, and around doing right by our people, we are very keenly aware that we need to invest in this plan and execute on it in order
Let me
to,
just get into the details a bit more. Like, what is the plan to increase to address the risk and increase the financial sustainability? Because some of the items that you mentioned are more the soft ESG type issues, but they don't help competitive, they don't help costs, they don't help increase the business or the cash flow. So what exactly is the plan to increase the long-term sustainability financially?
Absolutely. We are investing $4 billion over the next 5 years on improving service and increasing capacity. We are planning to increase our parcel capacity by over 50% over the next 7 years. One example is $470 million investments that we've made into our Albert Jackson Processing Center in Toronto that will be able to process 1 million packages a day. That is 50% more than Gateway. It is the largest industrial project in Canada with zero carbon building. We realize that the online e-commerce is going to increase. The online sales in Canada.
And let me just interrupt you there on that point. You're investing in what is, according to all your reports, the low profit margin areas of the business. And we understand that's where the growth is. What is the forward-looking reduction that we're going to see in the high-profit address mail, and how is that going to correspond with your planned 50% increase in parcel capacity? Will the increase in the low-margin parcel capacity make up for the losses in the address mail?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. I'm hearing an echo. So according to our 2021 annual report that we publish, our annual cost study, the contribution margin for our exclusive privilege, to which you mentioned transaction mail as part of it, it was 39%. And the contribution margin for our competitive services, to your point, is lower at 25%. And so the competitive services include parcel. But if I were to give you a little bit of historical volumes, in parcel volumes, in 2019 were about
I'm more interested in moving forward and looking forward and what the numbers will be or what you're projecting looking forward for how they're going to offset.
Yes. So at this point, what I can tell you is that the contribution margin for competitive services is lower than our exclusive privileges, but let's not forget it is still profitable. It is absolutely a profitable business, and it is an area that we need to capitalize on the growth that we are expecting to see in Canada. Online sales are expected to top 100 billion in 2025. So we need to ensure to increase our capacity to be able to grab those increased market shares. We want to improve our service. We want to modernize our operations. And with that, ultimately improve our margin performance.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mrs. Thompson for 6 minutes.
Thank you to the witnesses. I'm going to sort of switch to the Think Small campaign. 2020, you launched this to support small business during the first wave of COVID-19, and you did win 2 Canadian Marketing Association awards. I'm really interested to hear about the supports that were offered to business, when it ended, and what you feel are the outcomes from the small business or the Think Small campaign.
Absolutely. So we are very much focused on our small and medium businesses. That is part of our clients that we serve across our network, and most often that's the first face that they see to Canada Post. And we are seeing extremely positive results. We've done a lot with them in 2021, and I'm going to I'm going to turn to my colleague, Madame Séguin, if she can help me answer specifically around our small and medium businesses.
Thank you so much, Rindella. So to echo your thought, again, I don't have all the details, but what we're doing with our small business, we're also piloting what we call new small community hub, really to improve the access and help those local small business to connect with their customers. So it's not a cookie cutter, but we've worked with all the communities in the union to determine how we can best serve local customers and small business. So it's part of Canada Post's ongoing effort to meet the Canadian changing needs and expectation and continue to build a stronger Canada together.
Could I ask, just as a follow-up, how many businesses were supported through the campaign?
Absolutely. It's a great question. I don't have that information at my fingertips, but we are very happy to follow up with the committee with that information.
If I could switch to staffing, and whichever one of the two of you would like to answer
For
this.
sure.
Again, February 2022, the interim CEO told this committee that staffing and coverage have often been a challenge, but more at the local level, not widespread. In April 2022, Canada Post indicated that it was experiencing a limited impact on staffing as a result of COVID-19. And while it was implementing a contingency plan, customers may experience delays. Would you like to update us on this, please, on what the current status of staffing impacts are and your contingency plan, and then also moving forward if you have a plan to mitigate any challenges into the future?
Thank you for the question. So absolutely, throughout COVID and early on this year, I do understand that we experienced situation where some local post offices had been impacted due to staffing issues. Those were kind of in pockets, not necessarily across our network. They were short-term localized situations. I don't have specific numbers about any particular area, but we do understand that it is a relatively small number overall. However, it is unfortunate that it happens. Every impact to service is very, very important to us. But with a national network of over 6,000 post offices, local staffing issues can occur for a myriad of reasons. And we are therefore experienced in responding and providing services. And we do have contingency plans into place. And we often look to ensure that we are providing the service that particular community needs. And I'm very well aware that the retail team works very, very hard to ensure that we can maintain services to communities when they are impacted by staffing. And we are therefore regularly hiring. So this is a constant hiring process that we undertake to ensure that we have the proper staffing levels. But let's not kid ourselves. We are facing same challenges as every other employer in Canada, and we are doing our best to mitigate any negative impact that could have on service. But if you have a particular area in mind of a concern, please let us know, and we'll be happy to follow up with specific details.
Well, thank you for that. And sort of switch another thread now on Indigenous procurement. You have set a target to purchase 5% of goods and services from Indigenous-owned suppliers or subcontractors by the end of 2025. For 2021, Canada Post reported that it had direct Indigenous procurement of 2.1%, and it was on track to achieve the goal of 5%. Could you share with this committee how you intend to reach the target?
At this point in time, you're right. We did adopt a target of 5% for our procured goods or services from Indigenously owned suppliers as well as contractors. And we did disclose that currently we are at 2.1%. That is compared to 1.2% in 2019. We realize that we still have a lot of work to reach 5% of the total procurement, but we are on track and we're constantly working, with our suppliers and with the communities to ensure we meet that target. So we are on track and we're continuing our work to reach that target. We know we have a way to go, but we're confident that we will meet it.
Thank you. And I think I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect time with 3 seconds, so thank you very much. We'll now go to Mrs. Vignola for 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies, for being with us today. My first question. In September 2021, there was a pilot project that was launched in collaboration with TD Bank. What are the financial results of that project up to now? Its popularity, what's the projected income for this project? Considering that TD Bank is not in all communities, do you intend to collaborate with other financial institutions? Are you thinking about extending this to a wider territory? Thank you very much for your question, Ms. Vignola. Yes, indeed, we carried out a pilot project for our postal banking services. It was called Canada Post My Money Loan in collaboration with TD Bank. I am not aware that we have any plans with any other financial institutions. We are just working with TD Bank. So it's a strategic partnership. It was launched recently. Right now, comments are very positive. So far, well, it's very new and we don't have a lot of details to share. But I know that we are extending our services offered under this My Money Loan. We will be heading for we will be launching nationally in the fall of 2022. So we are very encouraged. The intention is to serve a segment of our population that is not well served by these financial services. It's not necessarily huge loans. These are small loans that really help communities and meet the needs of these communities that are now underserved. Thank you very much. Many small communities saw their cooperatives and banks leave to go set up business elsewhere. Why did you choose TD Bank in particular? In a few seconds. Sincerely, I do not have details about the process. I don't have details about the procurement process. I don't know why TD Bank was chosen. All I know is that it was a strategic partnership that was set up with TD Bank. Unfortunately, I don't have any more information. Why? Could you tell me, could you send me the process, the decision-making process by email if possible? Send it to the entire committee. Thank you. Yes. What I can tell you is that we have a stringent process that we respect for such businesses. I'm simply asking that you send it to us by email. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Last April, Stephen Guilbeault, in his greenhouse gas reduction plan for 2030, he mentioned that to show leadership, energy targets for federal buildings had to be revised, and they had to be ambitious. In that announcement, we've heard about providing electric charging stations for areas under federal jurisdiction, including organizations like Canada Post. Have you budgeted the impact of such an announcement? Right now, that is part of our environmental strategy. Right now, I believe we have 4 electric charging stations in our biggest centers. And indeed, we are thinking about expanding this over the years by instituting the leadership plan. Was it budgeted? Yes or no? I cannot answer that question. I do not have that information right now, but I can't respond. I can send it to you. Do you think that Minister Guilbeault's announcement, well, if you have figures, it will be good. But do you have an idea of the investments that will be necessary to cover all post offices in Canada, even if it's just with 1 charging station? What will be the economic benefits for such a measure for Canada Post? Yes, indeed. That is part of our plan. We know that Canadians are expecting that more than us. We have an action plan to reduce our emissions by 2030. We have many others, including green vehicles. We added 740 this year. When it comes to specific costs, I do not have that information with me right now. Let me turn to my colleague, Ms. Seguin, to find out if she has any more information. If not, we can send it to you later. Thank you. Natalie? Thank you very much. Indeed, we have piloted this in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. We have charging stations for employees, but we do not have the results of that pilot project, but we'll be informed later. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. In the union proposals, they talked about electrifying the fleet. I know that 14,000 vehicles have been replaced. That's something that cannot be done overnight, I understand. But they talked about the possibility of making it possible for the population to using those charging stations to provide income or revenue to Canada Post. As you said, we have a vast fleet of vehicles, more than 14,000. So our plan is to progressively replace those vehicles when it's time to replace them with greener vehicles, and also to make sure that we have charging stations. We will start with our vehicles to make sure that our employees are served. Right now, we haven't thought about extending this to the community. We will start with us. And as you said, this is a real challenge. It's a big plan, and it also depends on what is available in the market.
Mr. Johns for 6 minutes. And just further, if there is further information that you'd like to add, and to answer the questions as Ms. Vignola asked for documents, if you would send that to the clerk, and the clerk will dispense that with the committee members. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses and certainly to all of the employees at Canada Post, who we appreciate, and the members of CUPW. The annual report for 2022 says that Canada Post Corporation would have lost money regardless of the pandemic. Can you explain how is this calculated specifically?
Thank you for that question. So specifically regarding the pandemic, we have highlighted and reported in our 2021 annual report kind of the revenues as well as the costs relating from the pandemic. For 2022, it was a little bit more difficult to quantify, specifically because a lot of the information was already included in our base and it was difficult to quantify. But we do know that in 2022, we were there to support the safety and well-being of our employees. And so we wanted to make sure they had the special leave that they needed in order to be safe, to remain safe, and for the safety as well as the communities that they serve. So we did not quantify that information in our 2022 report. However, what we do know that we still incurred special leave, probably not at the same level that was incurred in 2021. And considering the amount that we had incurred for those expenses in 2021, that is why our comments were that the losses were not necessarily driven by those additional expenses, but really by the loss of revenue that we saw into the year.
Okay, I really appreciate you acknowledging and protecting your workers. Postal workers, as you know, we're adhering to public health regulations and protecting public safety by exercising the negotiated leave provisions in collective agreements as well. And we know in other industries, the costs of COVID absences and a lot of programs were covered by EI and other emergency assistant programs. Can you speak about how that creates a different balance sheet from other private sector corporations?
Absolutely. So for Canada Post, we're like I said, the safety of our employees is paramount for them and the communities that they serve, as well as for their family. And to your point, we probably were the one, if I were to say, footing the bill or ensuring that we covered their leave. We offered childcare leave, elderly leave, quarantine leave, whether they were isolating or whether they were in contact. And it does create a pressure on our expenses compared to other companies. You're absolutely right, it does. But we still think that those were expenses extremely well important and well worth to invest in for the safety of our employees. They are our number one assets, and they are the face of Canada Post, and their safety is absolutely paramount and proved to Canadians, especially during the pandemic, what an essential service that we are. So it is a cost, probably an increased cost to us compared to other companies, but one that is very well worth it, and important to invest in.
Well, I really appreciate you acknowledging and the important role that they played, the workers, especially through the pandemic. Now, I guess the pandemic experience really is a mix of challenges and success for Canada Post. For instance, the impact on parcel volume and the extent to which households appreciated their reliance on the service, which may be tied into the fact that Canada Post returned to the higher rankings in the Gustavson Brand Trust Index. Can you speak about some of your successes and adaptations?
Absolutely. So again, our COO, Manon Fortin, was here in February and perfectly laid out all of the great work from a service perspective that our amazing team of 68,000 employees did throughout the pandemic. So from a finance perspective, what I can offer is absolutely in 2020, we did see parcels volume surge as things essentially shut down. However, we did see complete decline or a halt in our transaction mail and direct marketing businesses. So those completely, went to a standstill during the pandemic. So we did see volume surge and revenues in terms of parcels. But again, we did see increased cost that was important. That was important for us to invest in our employees and health and safety. But overall, I think what the pandemic really, as I mentioned before, really brought to our attention is we are an essential service to Canadians. Canadians rely on us. Canadians are evolving. We are very well aware that 48% of them are buying more online since the pandemic, and we need to be there. And they were patient with us when we had increased volumes and we were over capacity during the pandemic, but we need to do better. And therefore, that is why it's critical that we implement our transformation plan really geared around increasing that capacity and increasing the service that they expect from us. That is really what that pandemic taught us. And we are the only company that serves 17,000 residential and
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. As the federal government considers when to launch a mandate review timing, when do you project Canada Post to return to a stable baseline financial situation so that the mandate review and its financial aspects can be in a position to look to the future and the long term and not be biased by a financial situation that still reflects the turmoil of the coronavirus pandemic?
Thank you for the question. So I cannot speak about timing of a mandate review, but what I can tell you is that our goal is to be financially self-sustainable, and to get there now more than ever, we realize the need to invest in our business in order to improve our service and in order to expand our capacity. I don't have a time frame for you, but it's paramount more than ever now as the online shopping and the e-commerce continues to expand. We have to capitalize on that.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Macaulay for 5 minutes.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for your comments so far. Your plans for long-term financial sustainability, have these items been put in your corporate plan and presented to the government?
What I can tell you, Mr. McCauley, is that we have submitted our corporate plan to our shareholder, and we are working with our shareholder to a path of
Was the
financial
plan
sustainability.
was the plan accepted?
To my knowledge, not yet. We are working with our shareholder on that path to financial
When was the last
sustainability.
time? Okay, when was the last time Canada Post's corporate plan accepted by the government?
If I were to go by memory, and I could be mistaken, it was 2019.
So 2019 was the last time the plan. So what happened in 2020 and 2021 that the plan was not accepted?
I think our focus remained as we were working with our shareholder to a path of financial sustainability. We never took our eye out on the prize. So we need to continue focusing on serving Canadians across our country. We are the only company that serves 17 million
Thanks.
addresses.
We're aware of that. But we're also aware that your executive summary does state that there's a risk to the financial sustainability of Canada Post. And it's a bit concerning. It's been 3 years now since your plan's been accepted by the government. I'm just curious what's going on that the government's not accepting your plan.
We have submitted it, and we are working with them on the path to financial sustainability. And our focus, like I said, is to really focus on our transformation plan that we launched in 2021. There's
Most
a lot
recent
of
plan submitted to the government.
Pardon me, I missed
When
the
was the
question.
most recent corporate plan submitted to the government?
We submitted last fall, and I believe it was in our annual report that we did submit our corporate plan to the shareholder
Okay.
in the annual report of 2021.
Yeah. What's the pension solvency deficit right now?
Great question. So as of Q1 of 2022, if we look only at the market value of the solvency deficit, and again, the solvency deficit looks at...
I know
that
what the
plan-
solvency deficit is. Please, can you just provide the number, please?
For sure. For Q1 of 2022, it was a deficit of $400 million. That is on a market basis. It is not the 3-year average that is calculated only on an annual basis.
The pension solvency had been $8 billion, and now you're telling me now it's down to $400 million?
Yes. And again, that is a product of the volatility of the discount rate and the changes. As you're very well aware, we saw discount rate reduced for many years, decreasing. But in 2021, those discount rate were increasing. So for example, at the end of 2020, our discount rate, I believe, was a negative 0.1% to calculate the solvency deficit. At the end of 2021, the discount rate was 0.5% to calculate, and that is a product of an increase in the discount rate. The discount rate is calculated by our actuary based on accounting standards.
It's quite significantly different discount rate than what the public service uses for theirs. That's interesting. Thanks very much. Now, Canada Post has moved from a negative equity position to a positive one. Can you explain how's that happened over the last couple of years? And how was this achieved in light of the financial losses?
Yes. Can I just comment on the solvency discount rate is different than the going concern discount rate, and I don't believe the federal government has the same solvency rules as ours, but
it's a different discount, significantly different discount rate.
Exactly.
I think it's
It's
5.7.
different valuation. Yes, on a going concern basis, we have been reporting a surplus for the past few years. That means the plan is to be maintained indefinitely. So we've had healthy surpluses. But to answer to your question about the positive equity, you're absolutely correct. At the end of 2020, end of December 2020, we reported negative equity of $919 million. In Q1 of 2022, it's a positive equity of $5.4 billion. And that is really a product of two things, our pension benefit asset, as well as our post-employment obligation, and really based on those discount rates. So those are discount rates set for accounting purposes under accounting standards. And those rates have changed dramatically in 2021 that improved the asset position of the pension plan and reduced the obligation. I want to preface that those remeasurements do not impact our earnings before tax, so they do not impact our bottom line, but they are recognized in other comprehensive income and impact equity. So to your point, that's the reason why we are in a much better
Thank you.
positive equity position.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Johari for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for your testimonies. Ms. Alhaig, I'm going to start with you. I'd like to really explore some of the greening initiative that Canada Post has been doing over the last few years. Really two pillars. One, focus on your fleet, and the other one focus on the asset or the buildings. Starting with the fleet, I believe previously when we had the appearance in this committee from Canada Post, the spokesperson really talked about a little bit about the modernization of the 14,000 vehicles that you have in your fleet, and there were points mentioned about integrating EVs. I also had an opportunity to look at your environmental action plan that came out in October of last year, which you had indicated some pilots that you're doing with some models of zero-emission delivery vehicles. Can you give us an update where you are vis-a-vis the fleet, vis-a-vis the upgrade, as well as integration of the zero-emission vehicles?
Absolutely. So thank you for the question. So to your point, in 2021, we did publish an environmental action plan that was done in collaboration with our bargaining agent. And specifically for our vehicles, we rolled out in 2021 740 low-emission vehicles. And so right now we have a total of about 1,500 of these vehicles in our fleet at the end of 2021. And as you mentioned, we do have a very large a fleet of 14,000 vehicles, and we will be gradually, as some of these vehicles are retired, replacing them with these low emission vehicles. And according to our COO, she did mention that we have 2 electric vehicles, I believe one in Montreal and one in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken, so far. And we are hoping to add to that, pending market availability kind of in the next year or so. And so we are well on track on that. And we did pilot 2 e-trikes in Montreal, and that pilot went really well. But currently, I'm not aware of any further kind of pilots being done. We're looking at that and try to see if we're going to launch it into other locations. But it was a very successful pilot that really helped with the down congestions and obviously lower emissions, and something that we will be considering further on a go-forward basis.
Thank you. Let me transition into the building. I know, congratulations on the recent announcement on the Albert Jackson Processing Center in Scarborough. I think that was a great news, not only increasing the capacity, but also making sure that the building is a zero carbon building. And I understand this is the first one, the first building which is zero carbon within the asset portfolio of Canada Post. How this facility, do you think, will, once it's operational, contribute to cleaner and greener economy and more sustainable postal services? Tell us, how does that fit into the overall strategy?
Absolutely. So thank you for the congratulations. We are very, very proud of that facility. And like you mentioned, it is really a leading edge zero carbon facility, and it is scheduled to open in early 2020. And it is designed to have efficient HVAC systems, solar panels, sensor control, light fixture, among other energy efficiency. And this is really supposed to be a zero carbon plant. So again, goes a long way into our environmental commitment and our environmental leadership. And even the better news is that this will be able to process about 1 million packages a day, and that's 50 more than currently our gateway facility. So again, we're doing it with a zero carbon plant. That is incredible news. We're all very excited for it and looking forward to the launch in early 2023.
I only got about 30 seconds left. Can you tell us what the plan for the other facilities are to be able to add them to the more green portfolio?
Absolutely. So I think right now what our intention is, any new build will kind of be built toward that zero carbon goals, as well as we're looking into opportunities within, we do audits currently of our current facilities, and we see how we can improve by adding perhaps solar panels, by improving the HVAC system. So it's an ongoing process. Obviously, we have an extremely large, property base. So the new builds probably are going to be built with the new zero carbon qualification, if I may. And then we're constantly looking at how we can retrofit our current existing buildings. So it's a process, but we're committed to it.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mrs. Vignola for 2.5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup. Je sais que Post Canada.
Thank you. I know Canada Post has been making extraordinary efforts but to deal with the deficit, you've been trying to modernize. There's great competition, particularly from the U.S. I'm aware of all that, but I would like to come back to the last answer you gave me about the charging stations. Yes, several have been set up because you do have several buildings, but I believe there's a possibility of having revenue here for Canada Post. You need them for future hybrid or electric vehicles. But when they are on the road, the charging stations could provide revenue through people in the community who may use them. So this is something that could be beneficial for you. These are ideas that could help you. Talking about helping you, there's another pilot project I'd like to talk about, the community hubs. What are the costs of these projects so far? What's the impact on the community? And do you intend to broaden the scope of these hubs? Yes, thank you very much on what you said about the charging stations. I will take this back to our teams who are studying the matter. Maybe they are already looking into it, but I am not aware of that. Concerning the new model of community hubs, this is a pilot project. The intention is to improve access to communities and help local SMEs. I do not have the specific cost for communities, but it's not really a copy-paste model. We are making adjustments depending on each community hub to meet the specific needs of the community. We work in collaboration. Well, how much will that cost in general? So far, looking at the entire pilot project without being specific on how much you've spent in one specific community so far, what has that community hub cost and what has been the impact? Right now, I do not have any figures with me. I'm sorry, I have an echo. I will be happy to come back to you with those figures later on. The response from the communities has been very positive. They appreciate the services being offered through those community hubs. They provide services to communities that are underserved, and it's very important for them. We are very proud of that. Yes, we plan to open 2 others later this year.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Johns for 2.5 minutes.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking so many great questions. CUPW and other bargaining units have negotiated language to protect workers from adverse effects of technical change, automation, basically, and an obligation on the employer to be proactive about eliminating adverse effects before implementation. How do you expect planned automation to change the working conditions of postal workers?
I mean, my comment around the automation is really to enhance efficiencies and really to enhance processes and really make us more efficient and provide a better service and provide kind of increased capacity that our Canadian needs. At this point in time, I don't have anything more to share kind of specifically. We're looking at it from a global view that we absolutely need to provide services that Canadians expect from us, and it is really important to enhance our operations.
Hopefully we can get some information further on that. The environmental action plan that you have covers the 4 following areas: climate action, zero waste, sustainable delivery, and employee engagement. Can you speak about single-use plastic and how much the corporation used in 2021 and what percentage of that was estimated to be unnecessary? The House of Commons passed a unanimous motion in 2018, my motion, to combat plastic pollution. I'd like to see how your progress is going.
Absolutely. I'm trying. I know that we have a plan to reduce plastic single waste usage. We have embarked on that plan. I don't have specific numbers.
If you don't have it, well, look,
we can come back.
Oh, that'd be great. Canada Post works to reduce non-mailable matter, such as alcohol and illicit drugs, before they reach communities. For 2021, Canada Post reported that it inspected more than 2,200 items destined for Indigenous and northern communities, resulting in the removal of non-mailable matter with an estimated street value of $2.8 million. Does Canada Post target vulnerable communities across Canada to reduce non-mailable matter?
Absolutely not. So that this is just my personal opinion. I think we have an obligation to ensure that non-mailable matters are.
Okay, it's just the optics aren't great, and I think it would be good to hear a better explanation from the government on this and from Canada Post.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. McCauley for 5 minutes.
Thanks. Appreciate your questions. Does Canada Post provide forward-looking forecasts for revenues and losses?
Provide to who?
Like forward guidance to either the government or to the public or to parliamentarians?
No, we do not provide that information to the public. Some of that is included into the corporate plan that we kind of disclosed that we submitted to our shareholder and we're working with our shareholder on, but it is not something that we would provide publicly at this point in time. And I do believe that once we have an approved corporate plan, it will be published.
Right, but we're not getting the corporate plan approved. Do you have a forecast for this year you can share with us?
I think what I can tell you for this year, we have seen the Q1 losses. What we are expecting kind of for the remainder of the year is very consistent kind of story. We are expecting, as we get out of the pandemic, we are really interested to see how consumers' behavior change and where we're going to land. So I do think, and there's also macroeconomic challenges such as inflation, the unfortunate war happening between Russia and Ukraine, that also has an impact on the economy overall. So, and then we also want to see.
But the inflation was before the war, so I don't know if that's a valid excuse. Can you just walk me through transactional mail? Is, I understand from doing the Canada Post study, 5-6 years ago, it was a very high profit margin. I think it was 69%. And then, of course, the parcel profit level margin was very, very low. What are the forecasted volumes for the transactional mail for this year and compared to parcel? Are we seeing now that we're coming out of COVID that, one is picking up more than the other, or is it still continuing the trajectory for the last several years? And the follow-up question to that, please, sorry. Canada Post in the digital age, the report that was done by the independent panel, I think it was 2016, through Ernst & Young had forecasted, I think, losses of $250 million a year by 2026. Can you respond to that, how we're looking right now? That's 4 years out. Are we on track for that, or are we on track to actually getting to net zero for losses?
So great question. Let me start by, I guess, looking at our parcels. So as we had disclosed in our Q1 22, we are seeing softness of our parcel volume and really driven by the high base that we had in 2021 because things were still under lockdown. So we are keenly watching how this is going to unfold in the next few months as economies open up. Hopefully we'll have the pandemic in our way, and to see how consumers' behavior are going to adapt to that. We do realize that, Canadians right now after that pandemic are looking for life experiences and travel and going to restaurants. And so that perhaps could be a reason of some of the softness we're seeing in the parcel volume, but again, remains to be seen. But what we do know in terms of the market as a whole, online sales, the market share is going to increase and expected to top 100 billion in 2025.
Let me just ask you quickly.
In terms of transaction,
sorry. Let me just interrupt quickly because I'm down to the last minute. I'll forget the other questions. What is the parcel delivery market share? Is it increasing compared to your competitors, or are we Canada Post, are we losing market share?
What I can say right now, I can't compare us to our competitors, but I know that we are
why
losing
not?
Volume.
Why not? That's a standard business metric, is comparing market share.
What we know is that we are facing significant and increasing competition. With the
Sorry, if I can interrupt, do you have those numbers you can provide to the committee, or you just don't track market share?
I can come back with that. I'm sure we have some of the information. Then we are aware that our market share is decreasing. That I can tell you that much. In terms of specific numbers, I'd be happy to get back to you. But we are realized that we have an increasingly competitive market with many fierce competitors with from the gig economy coming up. So we have to do better and improve our service and our capacity to be able to compete and regain that market share, as well as become a leader into the online parcel business.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Baines for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. My question is around the My Money loan delivered with TD Bank. Can you please give us an update on the Canada Post initiative in these community hubs called My Money Loan delivered with TD Bank?
Right. So as I was saying before, so the My Money loan is a strategic partnership with TD that we've launched a pilot in 2021. So far, it has been successful market test in 2021 and in Q1 of 2022. We are planning a national launch of the My Money loan products over the next several months with a full launch by the fall of 2022. We realize that it is an important service that has been very, very well accepted by the underserved communities that need such products. And again, those are smaller loans that really help Canadians and fulfill that need in the market, and something that Canadians are expecting us to be there for them. So we're very encouraged by the preliminary results that we're seeing and looking forward to a full launch later this year.
Okay, and how is it helping? How is the new community hub post office model helping local businesses and Indigenous communities?
Absolutely. So the new community hubs in High Prairie, Alberta, and Member Two, and the one that we just recently launched in Member Two, Nova Scotia. So that is increasing the services that we are providing to those communities, giving access and help local small businesses connect with customers. Again, we work with the communities and unions to determine what are the needs of the community. So, for example, in Member Two, we are having meeting rooms that are for sale and then kind of printing facilities. So that is ongoing efforts to meet the changing needs. And when we look into these communities, we try to really adapt it to the needs of that particular community. We also improved services in 5 Indigenous communities in 2021. We're very proud of that. We know we have a lot of more work to do, but we are slowly getting there. And the community hubs is one way to reach those communities and provide that service and be there for those underserved communities that they deserve as much service as some of the bigger centers.
Okay, and Canada Post has set target to purchase 5% of goods and services from Indigenous-owned suppliers or subcontractors by the end of 2025. Can you just maybe give us an idea of how that's coming along?
Absolutely. So I believe and I want to quote you the right number. I believe at the end of 2021, we absolutely have a target of 5. And at the end of 2021, we were, I want to say 2.1%, but just want to make sure that I'm telling you the right information. But it is our constant work ensure that we're meeting those needs, and we are very confident that we will meet that procurement strategy for Indigenous procurements of 5%. So we are very confident that we'll meet it.
And how do you sort of intend to reach that target?
By working and by working with our indigenous owned suppliers and subcontractors. And so that target is by the end of 2025. And so we will continue to work with those Indigenous owned suppliers and subcontractors to come up with opportunities in order for us to go from the 2.1 that we've reported at the end of 2021 to our 5% target by 2025.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, do I have more time?
Yes, you have 45 seconds.
The hub model that you talked about, maybe just in the last 30 seconds, is that only meant for smaller communities? Can that be introduced in other areas as well, urban areas?
At this point in time, it's really to improve community access for, at this point, we are really focusing on underserved communities and to increase access point to small and medium businesses. We are not at this point looking into larger communities, but it's part of our plan to increase the service to the underserved Canadians in those smaller communities as well as Indigenous communities.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, I want to thank the great questions that were being asked and your answers. And I'm going to take advantage right now of being in the position of the chair because I do have a question for you. And it's just a simple little, but I'm from Saskatchewan. We're seeing a lot of mailboxes being changed out. And all of a sudden we're getting new mailboxes. And so the question really is first of all, were these locally contracted out to do the changes? Secondly, with the design of the new mailboxes, because of the old ones, there was a lot of concrete being busted up. Are they being designed that should you ever come up with a chance to change your plan, they're designed that you don't have to keep redoing the cement work? And then the third part of it is those old boxes, are they being recycled? And I guess the last part is how much is it going to cost? How much is it costing?
Thank you. I'm hearing an echo. So thank you very much for your question. I unfortunately, great questions, and love the enthusiasm and the support that you're showing for your community. What I can tell you is we are constantly look to replenish our fleet, and we go through vigorous RFP process as part of that to ensure that we have kind of the most efficient fleet out there to replenish. To replenish our community mailboxes. I don't have more specific information. I'll ask my colleague, Madame Séguin, if she has anything more to add on that. And if not, happy to get back to you. Nathalie.
Thank you, Rindella. So to your point, so as finance, we're not necessarily engaged in the design of our community mailbox, but again, from a local purchasing standpoint, it's really all about what makes sense. All part of our sourcing process on how to best support those change from an asset-based standpoint, because every year we need to reinvest in our extensive asset base. So yes, we do need to transform to better support the growth and the experience that we have with our customer, but we also need to maintain the large asset base that we have with our buildings, with our plants, with our community mailbox, with our vehicles. So those are also a needed investment that we need to do, and there's teams that are working all the time to ensure that it's done in the best and the most appropriate way. But again, as finance, we're not in the details of those process. But thank you for your question.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the answer. And I didn't think I knew I was touching on a very different area, but I do appreciate your response. With that said, we have come to the end, and Ms. Séguin and Ms. El-Hadji, thank you very much for being our witnesses today. With that, we've now come to the end of our public portion of the meeting, and we'll now proceed to an in-camera portion of the meeting. So I'm going to suspend the meeting, and when I do so, the technical staff will end this part of the meeting in Zoom. That means that the members that cannot remain in on the present Zoom call that you're on, you were given a passcode and a link to the Zoom, and so with that, if you would exit and then come back in as quickly as you can so that we can resume the in-camera meeting. So at this point, I suspend the meeting.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your
Thank you.